Hello and welcome back to the Second Take Podcast. My name is Calvin Williams. I'm here with my co-host Marco Rogers, and today we have a great episode of Second Take Podcast coming at you. We're going to start it off with a little reaction to NFL WILDCARD. It was a very interesting weekend, so we'll recap that. And then we'll talk about a little bit about college football, who's declaring to the NFL draft, who's staying. A lot has happened with Michigan, so we'll keep you updated on that. And then our last two segments will be college basketball recap, predictions, a lot of movement around the rankings. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then the NFL divisional round, we'll predict that at the end. Definitely the most exciting thing coming up this weekend. So, Marco, can you get us started with the 49ers beating down on the Seahawks in the NFL wildcard?
First game in the NFL wildcard, Saturday afternoon, San Francisco. This game very close at the half, 17-16 Seahawks. They scored all 17 of those points in the second quarter, but San Francisco, just an offensive juggernaut. I mean, Brock Purdy, you look at his stats, 18 for 30, 332 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. Those look like incredible stats, but you watch the game, he didn't really play that well, but the talent of this offense, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, and just so much more, just able to overwhelm average performance out of Brock Purdy and make his stats look terrific. McCaffrey, 120 yards rushing. Defense, as expected, one of the best defenses in the NFL. Just Niners expected to win like this, and they did just that. Seahawks put up a nice fight in the second half, but just not enough talent.
Seahawks were able to put up a fight, and the 49ers are truly rolling right now. Like you said, Brock Purdy didn't have the most impressive performance, but as a rookie quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant, I think he's doing plenty, playing more than people thought he would for sure. Most people didn't even think he'd play, but he's just doing enough, and with such a talented offense, it's really hard to see this 49ers team losing this upcoming week. Marco?
Definitely going to be an interesting game that we'll predict later for the Niners, but good win for them there. Then, easily best game of the week. Jags stun the Chargers. I mean, one of the best football games I've watched in a while. 27-0 late in the second quarter, and I guess Trevor Lawrence activated beast mode, and he went crazy. Threw 4 picks in the first half. 3 of them to Asante Samuel. That was his best receiver in the first half. The Chargers defensive back. And then he just comes out in the second half and is absolutely incredible. The rest of the offense, great. ECN had a good second half. And the defense in the second half, holding the Chargers to just 3 points, absolutely incredible. Missed 40-yard field goal from the Chargers. And Brandon Staley should get fired within the next week or so. And if he does not get fired within the next week or so, something is wrong with the Chargers organization.
Yeah, Chargers have been blowing leads all season, so I wouldn't call it uncharacteristic of them in this game. But that being said, with this game starting 27-0, Trevor Lawrence 4 picks in the first half, and they just clawed their way back in the second half. It was just like touchdown. It wasn't even like a bunch of big plays in a row. They fought their way back. Really gritty win from the Jags here. Trevor Lawrence, I think, showed an exceptional amount of mental strength here, which is what you want to see in a great quarterback. I'm not saying he had a phenomenal game by any means. He threw 4 interceptions in one half. That being said, being able to overcome that for 4 touchdowns in the second half and lead your team to a victory, I just think that's truly exceptional. And if he's able to cut those turnover numbers down, this Jags team could make a little bit of noise. Marco?
Yeah, definitely going to be tough with their next game, which we will also predict later. But just what a win, and easily the best game of this stretch of wildcard games, and likely going to end up being the best game of the playoffs. Next up, Giants beat the Vikings. This game was so competitive throughout. Cal, why don't you get started?
So Giants Vikings. The Vikings have been known for they've won a lot of close games, but they've also let some not teams that don't have as good of a record as them stay in the game and almost dominate games against them. That being said, this was not totally dominated by the Giants. The Vikings were able to stay in it for the majority of the game, but it really was just that first quarter when New York got off to an early 14-7 lead, and then it was even for the rest of the game. Like if you look at the quarter numbers, second quarter 3-7, third quarter 7-7, fourth quarter 7-3, Giants, and that was it. So, very good game. Daniel Jones, 24-35, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, which I think is huge in playoff games. And Kirk Cousins, not a bad game, 31 for 39, 273 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. But you look at that 273 yards with 31 completions, that's just showing that you're not getting any huge plays, really. So that was mainly the problem for Minnesota. They just couldn't really get like that. They weren't really getting that huge long strike. Their longest reception was 28 yards to TJ Hawkinson. Jefferson held to just 7 catches, 47 yards, and his longest was 10 yards. So when you're not getting that explosiveness out of him, you're just not going to be as good as you usually are. Marco.
Yeah, the two main things I want to talk about is one, how do Daniel Jones and Isaiah Hodgins beat an offense of Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, TJ Hawkinson, Adam Thielen, and Justin Jefferson? That's just incredible to me. Vikings don't have the best defense, but not a bad defense. But Daniel Jones, as you said, was running very well, 78 yards, and passing even better, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. But Isaiah Hodgins, a guy they pretty much picked up off the streets. I believe he was an undrafted free agent. 8 receptions, 105 yards, 1 touchdown. You look at the guy, he's not that tall. He's tall, but not that tall, not that strong. He's just such a good route runner. Reminds me of kind of like a Julian Edelman or something, someone who's not really particularly good at anything. They just find ways to get open, and that's who Isaiah Hodgins is. 8 receptions, 105 yards, 1 touchdown, leading receiver in a playoff game. That is huge. And the second thing, the last play, 4th and 7 for the Vikings. You'll have Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson on the field, and Kirk Cousins. Good protection. Receivers look like they're about to break open. Adam Thielen was about to get open on a crossing route, and he throws a 3-yard check down to TJ Hawkinson on a 4th and 7 with the season on the line. That's just a little absurd to me, and that is just showing that Kirk Cousins is not a clutch quarterback, and he simply doesn't really have it in him.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like, you gotta be willing to take that shot, and that's the reason he only had 273 yards this game. Like you said, that shot he should have taken near the end of the game, but also like the entire game, really not throwing many deep passes. When you're in a playoff game, you simply just can't be conservative. I get you can't turn the ball over, but you do need to be able to take a shot when you need to, and Kirk Cousins wasn't able to do that. Marco, you want to take next one?
Yeah, next up, Miami versus Buffalo. An embarrassing performance out of Buffalo against Skylar Thompson, the Dolphins' third-string quarterback. When you're going up against a quarterback that goes 18 for 45, 220 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, there's no reason why the game should be within 20 points, especially for a team like the Bills. But this game, sort of shows that Josh Allen, I'm not going to say he's overrated. I think he's probably the most talented quarterback in the NFL, but actually, I will say he's a little overrated because you look at the game and he has some incredible plays, 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 2 picks. He just throws picks so often, and he does some somewhat stupid stuff sometimes where he just tries to make a play when it's simply not there. And it works 50% of the time, but it backfires the other 50%, and people just look at the great part and say, oh, he's the best quarterback in the league, which I don't think he is. So he just needs to be a little more relaxed in the pocket. As you said, you should be taking shots in playoff games, but this isn't just because of the playoffs. He's been doing this all year. So I'm not impressed with the way he played with those 2 picks and a fumble. So Buffalo defense actually did decent. They held them to 24 points due to a scoop and score. But yeah, just not very impressive out of Buffalo's Buffalo overall, really. Keeping this game within 3 is pretty crazy considering the Dolphins have their third string quarterback. Their run game averaged 2.3 yards per carry with their leading rusher, Jarek Wilson. Like, Dolphins had no business being in this game, yet they were due to a poor performance out of Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, truly bad performance from Buffalo. If the Dolphins had Tua this game, you could definitely see the Buffalo Bills getting knocked out very early, which would have been surprising to many. But what I will say, like you said, in about my comment, you need to take shots in playoff games, but there is a limit to it. Josh Allen, if he's going to want to lead this team to a Super Bowl, he has the talent, but he needs to find the happy medium, right? You got to not turn the ball over, but you also need to take shots. He takes shots. He takes plenty of them, probably too many. They just need to be smart, calculated risks, and you need to know what you're getting. You can't force balls into coverage and just hope Stephon Diggs makes a play, because although he is a phenomenal receiver, you can't count on him to catch the ball over 2 defenders every time. So Josh Allen just needs to be a little more composed, and I think this Buffalo team will be just fine. Marco?
Oh, yeah, definitely a easier matchup than they expected next game, but we'll talk about that later. Ravens at Bengals, another game way closer than expected. Tyler Huntley, he played his heart out this game. Ravens backup quarterback. If they had Lamar, they would have won. I'm not even going to say probably. They easily would have won. Another poor performance out of a team that people thought were Super Bowl favorite. Well, one of the Super Bowl favorites. Burrow, not bad. Didn't turn the ball over. 23 for 32, 209 yards, 1 touchdown. Jamar Chase, not bad. 9 receptions, 84 yards, a touchdown. Run game couldn't get going. Joe Mixon, 11 carries, 39 yards. Bengals defense was solid due to that late scoop and score. Both Harbaugh brothers lose because of a bad goal line fumble. But yeah, just very unfortunate for the Ravens to have their season end because of a fumble at the goal line. If they scored that, they likely would have won. So tough to see them go down like that. But Bengals definitely have an interesting matchup next week.
Yeah, and I worry for the Bengals because their offense was not able to get anything going. You take away that scoop and score, 17 points is not ideal in a playoff game at all. And the reason they got away with it is because although Tyler Huntley is a mobile quarterback, this Ravens offense is built around Lamar Jackson only. So without him, it's a huge hit to their franchise, more than it would be to a lot of other teams, just because of the way that their offense is built. So the Bengals definitely need Joe Mixon to get going a little bit more with this upcoming game against the Bills, but also Joe Burrow needs to step it up because he only threw for 209 yards, which is not numbers that you want to see from an NFL quarterback. Marco?
Oh, yeah. Bills-Bengals definitely going to be interesting next week. Both teams after disappointing performances. We'll see how that game goes. Next up, a game that we won't talk a lot about since it really wasn't that entertaining. Cowboys-Buccaneers. We're not going to get into the Brady drama. We can leave that if we want to talk about it in the offseason. But, 35 for 66, 351 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. 66 attempts. You're having your 44-year-old quarterback throw the ball 66 times. That's how bad this run game is. That's pretty crazy. The other big takeaway, Brent Maher misses 4 extra points in a row, goes 1 for 5 on extra points. That is crazy for a playoff game. They just signed a new kicker who will likely be playing in the next week's game. Prescott, very impressive performance. Just overall good offense, good defense of the Cowboys. They easily handled this pretty bad Buccaneers team.
Yeah, just 66 passes is just simply absurd. There's no quarterback that should be throwing that many times in one night. It was truly just sad. Maher was missing extra points left and right for the Cowboys, and everyone was like, oh, Brady's going to make him pay for that, but he didn't. It was truly just a sad game for the Buccaneers, to be honest, and it was really never that great of a game. Cowboys dominated it almost from start to finish.
Yeah, so pretty good weekend in the NFL. Lots of close games, big comeback from the Jags. Next up, we're going to talk a little bit about college football and some players that are leaving and staying. I'll start it off. CJ Stroud is leaving despite Ohio State fans for no reason getting their hopes up. I guess they just want something to be happy about. He leaves the legacy of being 0-2 against Michigan, never making a Big Ten championship as a starter, never winning a playoff game as a starter, and every time he had to play in the cold, he seemed to be unable to play quarterback. So not a great legacy for a guy who's considered to be one of the most talented Ohio State quarterbacks ever.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, he was a phenomenal quarterback, but he just wasn't able to win big games, and that's just that's the hard truth of it. I think he could be very good in the NFL, but we haven't seen an Ohio State quarterback be insane in the NFL in a while. I mean, Justin Fields has had a pretty solid season, but we haven't seen that much from him. And unless he's turning into a truly great NFL quarterback, CJ Stroud could be one of the first Ohio State quarterbacks to really make a mark on or not one of the first, I'll say. One of the first Ohio State quarterbacks in recent years to make a mark on the NFL. Yeah, and then next up for Michigan, some guys that are returning. Cornelius Johnson at receiver. That's pretty huge. He's definitely had a slower development than you would like to see, but he definitely has a big play factor that I think could be huge for us next year, especially with J.J. McCarthy continuing to improve, especially with that deep ball. Michael Barrett, huge also. Great linebacker, gave us great minutes this year. An improved linebacker play will be absolutely essential because we did at times this year, Michigan did have some times making tackles, although it wasn't every game. In big games we did sometimes struggle. And then Mike Sanders still at wide receiver, or not wide receiver, sorry, previous wide receiver. Mike Sanders saw a DB. Great slot corner this year. He made some huge plays. Zach Zinter on the O-line. Trevor Keegan on the O-line. And then we have Chris Jenkins returning. Harbaugh returning. And then biggest of all, Blake Corum coming back for another year. If he just continues his trajectory, he better win Heisman next year. That's all I'm saying. And I'm expecting a huge year from him. Marco?
Oh, yeah, definitely huge to have all these guys coming back. The only position I would say we got significantly worse at is corner due to Turner and Green both leaving. But Will Johnson's likely going to be a top 10 corner in college football, at least, arguably top 5, arguably top 3, based off what he did in his limited play this year. Actually, he played quite a bit, but not as much as he will next year. But some guys leaving, Ronnie Bell, obviously, he's like 26 or something. I don't know. He's super old. Taylor Upshaw is going to Colorado. He'll be with prime time. And then Jermon Green, both the Green brothers leaving. I mean, Jermon didn't really do much, but his brother did. DJ Turner, him leaving is going to be very big. So I don't know. I don't know how much that's going to affect Michigan, but that is still very important to lose corners like that.
All right, and then finally for Michigan news, Matt Weiss got arrested for some computer issues. Not totally sure what that is, but hopefully he doesn't stay arrested because he is one of our offensive coordinators, so that probably wouldn't be great if he stayed arrested for the remainder of the season. Marco, anything to say about that?
Yeah. Don't know what a computer access crime is, but could be a lot of things. Yeah, not quite sure what he was doing, but hopefully we are offensive coordinator back. Next up, college basketball. What a week! College basketball is definitely the big thing to watch right now, and you just have to be watching it. I'll talk about some of the big upsets. Kentucky stuns number 5 Tennessee at Tennessee. Vanderbilt shocks number 15 Arkansas. I don't know how you lose to Vanderbilt. Number 9 Arizona. They get destroyed by unranked Oregon. St. John's shock number 6 UConn at UConn, and then tonight Seton Hall just beat UConn, who's at 15 now, and also tonight unranked West Virginia just beat number 14 TCU. So also, I want to mention on Saturday, 11 top 25 teams lost. I mean, that is just crazy. And only 2 of them were against other ranked teams. So 9 ranked teams lost to unranked teams. That is crazy and shows how we just don't really know anything about anyone in college basketball. Not really a true number one yet, but Houston definitely making a run at that, and we'll talk about the top 10 right now. Cal, why don't you start it off with the top 5?
Yeah, I'll run through these pretty quick. Number 1, Houston. Barely beat South Florida. Don't have a ranked team schedule for the rest of the season unless someone moves into the rankings. So truly an unimpressive number 1, but number 1 nonetheless. Sasser is one of the best guards in college basketball. Still a very talented team, and they'll definitely be a 1 seed in the tournament. Number 2, Kansas. They've just been finding ways to win. Unfortunately, they did have a loss to Kansas State, but for the most part, still a very good team. Number 3, Purdue barely beat Michigan State. Zach Edey has been dominating in the post recently. 32 points against Michigan State. Good Purdue team, but truly it's just Zach Edey getting the ball in the post, kicking out to a few shooters. That's mainly what Purdue does. Then number 4, Bama. I think this Alabama team is I think they're very good. Despite being at number 4, I just think it's a really talented team. They're really fun to watch. And then number 5, UCLA comfortably wins over Utah. Colorado, they did have to come back a little, but they did end up winning by about 15, so still a good win. They keep their winning streak alive, and they have a couple tough games with Arizona State, Arizona, and USC coming up again, so they're going to have to continue to get better, and they're still one of the best defensive teams in college basketball right now, and I think that's really their motto right now. Mark, are you going to take 6 through 10?
Yeah, a couple of things I'll mention about what you said first. That Kansas State game was absolutely crazy. And about Bama, Darius Miles got arrested for being involved in a murder, so that's very sad, and we won't get too into that because we don't know much about that. But next up, number 6 Gonzaga, they beat BYU by 1. They beat Portland by 40. That they aren't good. They should not. They are not a top 10 team. They just play nobodies. Number 7 Texas. They beat number 17 TCU, who, as we just said, got upset by Seton Hall. So that's not that impressive. They edged past Texas Tech. Then they lost at number 12 Iowa State. That's tough loss. Somewhat close game, but they just don't seem that good to me. But I guess nobody's really good at all. Number 8 Xavier barely beat Creighton and barely beat number 25 Marquette. They have a pretty easy remaining schedule. Actually, I don't even think they have a ranked team, especially because UConn is definitely going down. But they are currently trailing to, I believe, DePaul with 12 minutes left. They're down by 5, so that would be absolutely tragic for them as DePaul is not good. Number 9, Tennessee. They need a bounce back. I believe they did beat Ole Miss or Mississippi State last night, but after that stunner versus Kentucky, they just need to bounce back, regain confidence, as they can be a top 5 team when they're playing well. Number 10, Virginia. They beat Florida State by 9, and they have an absolutely insanely easy remaining schedule because the ACC just isn't good. Duke and North Carolina aren't good, especially Duke. They are not good. But Virginia, pretty easy schedule. I think they'll probably be a 1 through 3 seed, most likely a 2 seed in the tournament.
Yeah, I could definitely see Virginia being a 2 seed. And then as far as Michigan basketball goes, tough loss to Iowa. They were winning most of the game. Jet Howard was having the game of his life for the first 30 minutes, but then didn't really make a shot for the last 10 minutes of the second half, or in overtime. So definitely tough loss there for Michigan, but they do get a good bounce back win over a not terrible Northwestern team. They were 12-4 going into that game, so good win there. And then coming up next week, we have Michigan at Maryland. Michigan took care of Maryland. earlier in the season, just dominated that whole game. And then also Minnesota, they have on Sunday, also dominated that Minnesota game. But 2 games, just got to get in, get out, get a win. And those will, if we can win both, it'll put us at a good spot in the Big Ten. Marco.
Yeah, that Maryland game, though, might be a little tough. I mean, Maryland, according to the NCAA bracketology stuff, they are currently an 11 seed. Not sure how they're ahead of us. I mean, we beat them by 40, but I guess so. Minnesota's awful. That if we lose the Minnesota game, season's over. If we lose the Maryland game, we'll have to have some major wins down the line, but that's like okay. I think we'll win both, though. I think we can find a little stride here, and maybe, just maybe, we can figure out a way. Maybe Juwan can muster the ability to win a game that's within 5 points. Haven't seen it happen this year unless we're playing Ohio or Lipscomb, or Eastern Michigan. But maybe against a good team, we can win a game within 5 points. That would be nice. And Minnesota will beat them by 20. Yeah. So next up, NFL divisional round. Cal, why don't you start it off?
Yeah, started off probably our least interesting game, but still has an opportunity to be a great game. Jags at Chiefs. Chiefs, this will be their first game of the playoffs after having a week of rest. You can have your opinion about whether that's a good or a bad thing. Jags coming off an insane comeback win. This team has absolutely nothing to lose, but the Chiefs are just better. Patrick Mahomes is a phenomenal quarterback. Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the NFL by far. And this Chiefs team is just very, very good. They've won games all season. They're going to continue to do it here and cruise to the AFC Championship. Marco?
I just don't see the Jags winning in Arrowhead, one of the toughest stadiums to play at in all of the NFL. Mahomes is better than Trevor Lawrence. The one thing I said the Jags can do is maybe control the run, have Lawrence be mobile, run some options, have ETN have a big game. Maybe if you can control the clock and have Chiefs just try to score really quick, but then their defense gets tired, then the Jags can lead to some big plays. I think that's the recipe for success, since Chiefs do not have the best run game. Jags do have a very solid run game. So yeah, I think that's the recipe to success for the Jags, but Chiefs are probably going to win by around 10.
Yeah, I would say I agree. Next up, Giants at Eagles. Another 9-win team against the 1 seed. I have a hard time seeing this not be a solid game. I honestly think that the Eagles are a very good team, but this will be Jalen Hurts' first week back, so he might be a little bit rusty. That being said, I still think the Eagles are going to win this game. No surprises there. Jalen Hurts is going to need to play well, though. He has weapons in A.J. Brown. They don't have a terrible run game with Miles Sanders in the backfield. This is a very good Eagles team that won all of their games when Jalen Hurts was playing. So definitely a very talented Eagles team right here, and I just think their ability to win games I mean, obviously, it sounds obvious, but I'm saying their ability to win close games and win games that they don't even seem like the better team in is what's going to get it done here. Marco?
Jalen Hurts did play week 18 against the Giants, but nobody was really trying. Nobody was trying in that game, so it doesn't really matter. That was pretty much an exhibition game since both teams have the playoffs and their spot in the playoffs clinched. I actually think this game is going to be a one-score game and come down to the wire. I think the Giants' ability to control clock with the Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley run game is big. I think they have a lot of receivers that can catch it. They can have like games where they have 8 guys go for over 50 yards, but no one go for over 75 yards. So they have lots of depth at receiver. They have a good defense. They're a tough team. I think this is going to be a tough game for the Eagles to really pull away from. But Eagles, as you said, just their ability to win close games. So I have the Eagles by around 6 or 7-3. I don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, I said it would be a close game also. So, I mean, we'll see. But definitely don't be surprised if we have a really good game on our hands there. Next up, Bengals at Bills. These last 2 games are very good games. 2 top teams in the NFL. These are probably the number 3 and 4 teams in the NFL. because Eagles, Chiefs, and then these two. So definitely a tough divisional matchup for both teams. The last time they met, the game was canceled due to the tragic incident of DeMar Hamlin. Luckily he's doing okay now, but super interesting game here. It's going to come down to, like we talked about earlier, can Josh Allen take calculated risks and control the ball without being too tentative? And if he's able to do that, this is going to be a Bills domination just because we didn't see enough from the Bengals offense in the wild card game. Joe Burrow only threw for 209 yards. Joe Mixon wasn't able to get that much going on the ground. The Bengals are really going to need to step up their offense in this game if they want to beat the Bills, and I just don't think they can turn it up enough notches to be able to do that. Marco?
I mean, Bills aren't going to have Joe Burrow go 18 for 45 with 3 turnovers like Skylar Thompson did. Their offense is also going to have to kick it up. Josh Allen's going to have to be safer with the ball, as you said. I think this is going to be a very, very close game. I think Bengals can turn that offense up a notch. It was pretty cold last week. Ravens are a tough team. I don't think the Bills are really all that tough. They just pretty good at defense, but I feel like they're pretty easy to pick apart at times, as we saw the Dolphins do at certain times in that game. So I actually think Bengals will have success in the pass game and the run game. But I think the Bills are still the better team. I think Allen will take those calculated risks, probably pass over 300 yards. If he can stay two turnovers or less, Bills win. More than 2 turnovers, they lose. I think it comes down to that. I think he will limit his turnovers, and Bills will win in a close game.
Yeah, that's going to be a super good one. And then finally, Cowboys at the 49ers. Super, super interesting game here. Dak Prescott coming off a great game, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And the 49ers coming off a huge win that they didn't even look their best in. So this San Francisco team, led by the Mr. Irrelevant rookie quarterback, is truly clicking right now. They've won 5 out of their last 5, and 2 of those past 5 really 3 of those last 5 were just dominations. So this team is hot. This team is very hot. Brock Purdy is doing just enough to let his players cook. Christian McCaffrey, crazy. Brandon Ayuk, solid. Deebo Samuel, crazy. George Kittle, crazy. I mean, that offense has stupid amount of weapons, and it's going to be really hard for the Cowboys to get the win here. So I got 49ers.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting game also because all of America is going to be watching the Cowboys and the 49ers play. But I am going to take the 49ers. Their defense is just so elite. Dak has shown lots of turnover issues earlier in the year. He didn't do that against the Bucs, but Bucs just aren't that good of a team. I think they're a below average team. They went 8-9. So I think the San Francisco offense will be too much for this defense, which is a very good defense, but I think they get the ball out quick, as you said, let the playmakers cook. And if they can do that, they're just faster, they're more talented than the Cowboys. They'll get out. I got 49ers by 10. Cowboys to keep it close for most of the game, but 49ers end their Super Bowl hopes for the second year straight.
Yep. That's all I have for tonight. Anything else, Marco?
Nope. Bye.
All right. Thank you all for listening to the Second Take Podcast. We will see you next week. Peace.